Where are we going with it? I'll listen.
We're going to make decisions tonight.
Decisions.
We're going to make decisions. No more kicking it down the road. Good evening. The hour of 6 p.m. having arrived, I call to order this regular meeting of the Municipal Services, Facilities, and Infrastructure Committee. The meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and channel 1302. The video is also streamed on the city's website and is posted on the website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Copies of the printed agenda are available on the wall pockets as you enter the room. The public will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks are to be made through the chair. I will not recognize an individual a second time until everyone who wishes to speak has. Anyone who wishes to address the committee is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room. Identify yourself by name and address prior to speaking. Our minute taker is participating remotely, so committee members, remember to turn your microphone on when speaking. And if the minute taker is unable to hear, they'll ask you to speak louder or turn the mic on. I call to order this meeting, and I note that all 5 of us are present, and thus we have a quorum. First item on our agenda this evening, and actually I think most everything on the agenda is further conversation about things that we have not made decisions, but I think we're going to make decisions tonight. First item is continued discussion regarding the sale of city property at 100 Church Street. We also have 2 communications, which committee, have you seen it? It's a petition basically from the Roxbury Street property as well as the Church Street abutting in support of the sale of the property. So Director Lucier, if you'd like to come on down, remind us where we are, and then I have a question for those present.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. And, you know, I think as you alluded to, we're here for continued discussion based on feedback that was heard by the council previously. I don't have any additional prepared remarks tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know that representatives from the adjoining properties are also in attendance, and they may wish to speak on the matter.
Okay, thank you. Again, I do want to make mention of these 2 petitions that we have been presented with, because that does answer some questions that I had. So my question to neighbors present, as I have been stalling this decision, so to speak, in the hopes that the neighborhood would come together with a plan to maintain the park and deal with the park, both for maintenance, plantings, lawn mowing, policing, anything. So if there is such plan, I think it would be very relevant for us to hear it now, because we are going to make a decision whether to recommend the selling or some adoption of a plan. So I recognize.
My name is Michelle Chalice, 25 Beach Street. What I would like to say is just to add a warning. I feel that this sets a terrible precedent. I don't think that we can sell, develop green spaces just because of their social challenges. People who are shooting up are going to do it elsewhere. People need a respectful place to go to the bathroom. We as a city are not providing that. They have to go somewhere. It's a shameful, shameful thing. And I feel the city has a role in that. So we cannot just keep shutting down green spaces because we have these types of activities. I'm very sorry to hear that this is the solution, and I hope it will not be in the future, because it's a much broader problem, and these green spaces are a huge part of having a healthy city.
Thank you. You do raise the issue of the downtown bathroom comfort station, which has been talked about, and at one point I think was even part of the rebuilding of Gilboa Avenue, but there's nothing currently happening. But absolutely, that needs to be a priority for the council to address. Like it or not, it's part of life. Everyone's got to go. So now as we try to make a decision whether to sell or to come up with a maintenance plan of some sort, is there a maintenance plan to be presented? And I hate to put someone on the spot, but here we are. Councilor Haas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ed Haas, 114 Jordan Road. There is no maintenance plan, but over the past month, when this has been first introduced, there's been talk between the fledgling Friends of Pat Russell Park group that is looking after gardening and maintenance and such there, and the Friends of the Ashwillet River Park group to get some kind of combined effort where we could look after these small pocket parks, pocket parks, not pocket pox. No pox, no pox. Where these could be looked after in the neighborhood. So to pull something, a plan together beyond that in a 1 month time is kind of challenging, but there is something percolating, and I would hope that that gets some credit. Thank you.
Okay. I am aware that there was an effort to locate some group to buy the park, and I could understand why that would be a huge challenge, not just the money, but also the ongoing responsibility. I would ask, I see the abutters are present. Do you have anything to offer?
Hi, everybody. John Tasoulis. I live at 36 South Lincoln Street. Hi, Amanda. I'm the abutter, 103 Roxbury Street and also 93 Roxbury Street. This piece of property has been breaking my heart for years. It is the property, imagine if your grandparents immigrated from Greece, which Mike did, came to America, they bought this piece of property, and they built a store, And at some point, the city took it by eminent domain. And it's been, at one point, when Antioch College was a tenant at 103 Roxbury Street, it was transformed into what it is today. Now, it's a horrible situation. You have people, my tenants are terrified to even go to the dumpster, which is adjacent to the park, to put their trash in there. They'll only do it if a male is around or during the day. They won't do it in the morning or at night. What's going on there is horrible, and I've been trying to be a steward of this property to no avail. And I've gotten nowhere. The people that use this park for bad activities, they're pretty smart. They know when to put their beer away, and they know when to put their stuff away so that by the time I call the police to complain about it, they've already disappeared or they've put their stuff somewhere else. I just think it's time now for this park, or not even a park, this vacant piece of land, to be sold back to either myself or to the abutter at the, I forget, what's the name of that address, Paul? 110. I just don't see how anybody could manage this without owning it. That was the problem I ran into. There's, I would say, you can't drink here. And people would say, tough, So I implore you to do the right thing here. If any of you lived or had a building next to this park, you would be dying to have the situation that we're in today where you can buy it and control it and maintain it. Because that's probably the only solution that I can think of. Now, I went to the meeting where try to come up with solutions for this property. And we talked about a fence, lighting, signage that says no drinking, taking the berm down so that you can see into this space. We talked about even a porta potty with the city manager. The city manager was horrified by that comment. She's like, it would be destroyed within a matter of days. It would not work. So the people from this park, and it's kind of sad, usually a problem piece of property is from somebody who is an absentee landlord, or a landlord who doesn't care about their property, and the activities on that site spill over to the neighborhood. This is different. This is a city-owned piece of property where the activities that are going on here are spilling out to my property and to the property that Paul represents. So it's kind of unique in a way. I've asked for, I've talked to Andy Buchanan about a fence. I talked to him about signage. And the best that we could do was come up with a little 8-foot piece of fencing that really has done nothing, So it's almost like, it's strange, but I need protection from the city property, which is kind of, not good. The city should set a high standard for its properties, and this piece of property has set a very low standard. And I think the right thing to do would be to sell it to the abutters. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Yes, sir. Turn the microphone on. Good.
Hi, I'm Ken Koss, 51 Railroad Street. First I want to begin by acknowledging the concerns of the abutters, and I hear the stress the situation causes. Everything that I read in the 2 letters, the attachments to the minutes today, reflect what I also see regularly, but blocks away, not just there, just 2 blocks away. So I throw out my trash. It's across from the Wells Street garage. I have to go into a little door, which I'm looking over my shoulder. Sometimes it's fine, but sometimes I don't know what's going on. So I'm always a little bit concerned and a little stressed doing that. I walk my dogs 4 times a day. Some people see me doing that, through Railroad Square and along the rail trail. And again, sometimes people are in these places almost all the time. Sometimes it's fine. They're quietly sitting and not doing anything. Other times there are people there that are a little bit scary. I don't know what they're doing. And so I have to walk through that all the time. I go to the co-op, and there are people, there's that little circle between the co-op and the hotel. And, people are tucked in the corners of there sometimes. And that, by the way, is privately owned land. That's actually not public land, that whole circle. So just to point that out. And then, on the trail again, which is a really important asset to that whole neighborhood, I would like to walk on it. I'd like to bike on it. Our grandkids come up sometimes, and I'd like to walk with them on the trail. But again, there's groups of people doing, I don't know what, isolated, a little bit scary, a little sketchy. So the problems that we're talking about at this corner are shared throughout the neighborhood. So selling the green space, I don't think would solve the problem. It'd simply shift it. People will move to other areas that I just mentioned, intensifying the challenges there. So it's a bit of whack-a-mole. Let's take the problem here and let's put it over there, and now we're making it worse for maybe me a block away and other people in the neighborhood. And I'm kind of surprised the city is considering a solution for 100 Church Street, selling it. It just doesn't seem like sound policy. Another point I want to make is we've heard that it is a nice green space. I understand the city owned the other 3 corners, which are now gravel parking lots and other things, so they're not very attractive. I don't know what they were before the city sold them, but that could be a fate for this corner. Don't know. And I hear that you're asking for some solutions. Has a group been put together? Who will take care of it? What's the plan? Do we have that ready before you can make a decision? But what's missing is any plan from the prospective buyers. There's no plan, so it's a matter of selling to them. I haven't heard what the solution is. We'll manage it somehow and figure it out, but don't know what that is. It could be just bulldozing it down and fencing it off and putting concrete and we lose another corner. I don't know what the plan is because we haven't seen one. So I think if we want to hear a neighborhood plan, there should be a plan from the people selling it as well. And the last point I do want to make about, the people there, the people who are gathering there and elsewhere, they're not a problem. These are people with problems. These are people, the individuals facing serious, often really entrenched challenges in their lives. And so treating them as a nuisance to be moved from space to space to space, from bench to bench to bench, just doesn't seem like something the city should be doing. We should be looking a little more holistically about solutions for this. So I would just ask that before you consider or vote to sell the property, that just like you're asking for community plans, if it stays in city ownership, someone to adopt the park, what are the plans of the people who want to buy it? And would that be a detriment to the neighborhood in a whole just to solve this problem on the corner? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to address, because I think that's a fair question from Mr. Cost, and I had the same question when Mr. Tsoulis was speaking about kind of what, we've heard kind of what has been discussed in the meetings, but I'm not sure there is a clear plan for the actual management of it if this were to be sold. I will say that for me, there is a distinction between my concern about a lack of a plan if the city is ultimately going to continue to be responsible for what happens there, versus if the property is sold. So I agree with Mr. Cost that I would like to hear the answer to that, but I think why you're hearing the committee have some stronger stated interest in whether or not the neighborhood group maybe has a plan is because in that scenario, the city ultimately retains responsibility for the activities there. I don't want to speak for the committee, but that's my perspective on it.
Yes, ma'am. You guys want to?
Hi. My name is Robin Cost, and I live at 51 Railroad Street. And I'm here, and I'm going to talk from a slightly different perspective. When Ken and I decided to move to Keene 5 years ago, it was a very conscientious decision. And it was based on what I heard. I had spent time, our grandchildren are in Massachusetts, but we knew Keene from 55 years ago when we used to hike up here. And we liked the small town atmosphere, and we were moving from Delaware with a small town where we were very involved within the community. We knew Ken would be facing retirement at some point, though he's still not there. And we've always been very service-oriented people. And while we were deciding where we were going to live, we did decide on Keene, but I want to tell you why we decided on Keene. I called into the radio show that was at that time Mayor Hensel, and I said, tell me about, I'll take my answer off the air, please tell me why I want to move to Keene. Convince me, sell me on Keene. And he says, well, what do you do? I said, well, I am the president of our downtown Renaissance, a city of 23,000 people. I work collaboratively with every 501c group in my city. We pool our resources, and we work on projects together, and we get grants, and we do public spaces. And he said, okay, you're going to love Keene. And I said, why? And he said, because even if what you're interested in isn't happening here yet, you will find like-minded citizens, and you can make something happen here. Which brings me to this point. We moved here, lived in West Keene, and then West Keene again, closer by the Y, and we moved downtown to Railroad. I love walking my dogs. Rosie is my constant companion now. I have to have her 24/7 when I'm walking. I can't walk on the trail. The reason I can't walk on the trail is because people are sitting there. I can't control my dogs when people are taunting or anything. I do go to that park. And I have seen people, but I've also seen children enjoy it, and I've seen other people enjoy it. Adjacent to that park across the street is a senior housing project. There are many residents in that housing project that walk around with rollators or walk around in electric wheelchairs. I have seen them go up to that green space and enjoy it. It's close by. Of course, we utilize Railroad Square, and we know the problems there. My view is over the city parking garage. I have called the police on activity I have seen or concerns I've had. Green spaces need to be preserved. We have very few in the city. I'm very glad to hear that there is an East Side group that was considering consolidating and working with pocket parks in the city. I come from a different background. I've worked with dogs for 55 years. I was an AKC board member, and I've done pro bono work. That area is small enough that it could be a privatized or membership-supported small dog park in that space, where the members pay a membership. It can be fenced off. You get a code. We did this in another place. We lived in Delaware. And the property is maintained by the membership. So there are alternatives, and we're not considering those. And as others have suggested, I'm not hearing what the abutting owners want to do other than own the property. Let's face it, they said in their letter that there's problems with the dumpster and activity going on. Well, that's privately owned. That's not the city park. And that access to that dumpster will remain the way it is. You can't really close that off. So I really would like to hear what they want to do. If they want to pave it over and put more parking, I'm definitely opposed to the sale. And I do think that the community can come up with some other options. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Yes, Counselor.
Thank you. I have questions for just about everyone, the petitioners, the community group, and Dawn, you. Would you like to kick us off? If that wasn't a sign.
Love nothing more, Counselor.
So last time we spoke about this, I didn't ask enough questions, I feel like. So I am curious about what it would cost the city to take some immediate steps to try to remedy this situation and mitigate some of the activity that is happening there. Like, how much would additional signage cost, or lighting, fencing, breaking down the berms? Like, is that something that we could feasibly do in the very near future?
I would say, yeah, all of those things are doable over a relatively reasonably short period of time. I will confess that I didn't cost out what all of that would cost. I think I'd like to nail down exactly the scope of what you would like to see done, and I can report back on what that cost would be.
But they could be implemented fairly quickly?
Yeah, I mean, removing the berm, we can do that in-house. That's pretty easy. It would remove some of the vegetation because the berm is planted. Putting up a fence is very straightforward. The one thing that might take longer, because we can't do it ourselves, is the lighting. That would have to have some work done by Eversource. Usually that's like a 6-week lead time. Depending on the type of lighting we want to install there might be a lead time to order the lighting itself. So that would take a little bit longer.
Thank you, and I did intend to call you ahead of time to prep you for those numbers, but time didn't allow me to.
Don, the thought just popped to me. If you put up a fence, that's going to keep everyone out. And that really would violate the idea of trying to have a fence.
Yeah, I think this conversation started a long time ago with the applicants that are now looking to purchase the land, approaching the city and requesting that we do some improvements on our side in terms of like fencing between the park or the green space and their property, so that the folks that are using the green space can't walk behind their dumpster to relieve themselves and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I think it would be more of like fencing the north and east sides of the green space.
And I was envisioning the east side, west side would be the street side, and that would just make it a closed space.
If it was no longer public space, then that would be something that the purchaser may look to do. If it was to remain a public space, then, that's probably wouldn't make sense.
Thinking of asking the abutter what he intend to do, but there's no way to lock them into that as a permanent answer. They could say, we're going to plant trees and oranges or anything, and then 2 weeks later pave it. So it's not even fair to try to back them into an answer. And put a deed restriction on it, and, okay, attorney.
Just wanted to comment, yes, that is legally doable, but of course, the consequence of violating a condition is that it would revert back to the city. So I don't know that that would accomplish what we're looking for.
Right, all right, think of it that way. Yeah, go.
Can I ask a few? I think that's my only question for you, Don.
I'm outta here.
Thank you.
Don't go too far.
But I guess my other comments are, my statements are more comments than questions. I do want to show on record, we do have 20 parks in the city, and 6 of those are pocket parks. So we do have, I think that's a considerable amount for the size of our city. I too am very interested. I heard a lot of comments since the last meeting regarding a desire for the city to keep the property and not sell it. And I was told there was very much a group that was ready to go and take this challenge on. And I am a little concerned that that doesn't seem to actually be in the works, right, or in fruition right now. And I too am very concerned or interested in knowing what the buyers have already done to protect their own property, and what they would do if they owned this property. And
This may be an answer.
Sure. Yeah, Paul Rodenhauser, 24 Pearl Street, Keene, New Hampshire. I'm the one who created all this, I suppose, because the first day that the current owner of 110 and 116 Church Street took title, I helped with managing that property, those 2 properties. I received phone calls about the park and from the tenants and their concern for safety and how the previous owner, was incapable of providing safety to them. So this is all kind of based around tenant safety for both, abutting properties. These letters, practically every tenant in those buildings signed, prominent members of our community, people who have been there for, some of them decades. The plan is private ownership, and that's the clear, differential between publicly owned land and privately owned land. It would be treated, I think the first thing would be no trespassing. That's the first thing. That you see a no trespassing sign, most people turn away and don't trespass. They don't go behind the dumpster. They don't use things that aren't theirs. Just today, I had all the locks on the front and back doors changed on 110 and 116 because our homeless population, some members have been sleeping in the common hallways there. So now every tenant has a key that they can access into the building, the door locks, and it's passer through, so they can always get out. But that's been an ongoing thing for all of these tenants. So really, that's the plan, is just private ownership. I don't see any other plan besides keeping tenants safe at this, point. So,
Okay,
thanks.
Paul, to ask the question
Yeah.
straight on.
Yeah.
Can we visualize this as grass and some landscaping?
You can visualize it, however you want to see it.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean,
just
right
really-
now, I don't know who goes down there currently as members of the council and the committee, to spend time there, to hang out there. It's really just boiling down to tenant safety and the difference between publicly owned land and privately owned land.
Okay.
And being able to have better control over it.
All right, thank
Okay,
you. Good
thanks.
answer. Anyone else? Laura, Counselor.
Thank you. I can't say that I've heard much here tonight that is new information for me. There are a couple of themes that I keep hearing. One is an interest in people taking care of property around them, and I think that I love that idea, and I would love to look at exploring that option further with Public Works about ways that people can do that. Doing that in response to a concern that's been going on for a long time feels a little bit different to me. Another thing that I hear is concern about people throughout the city needing help. So wherever we look, we see people who need help in some way and who are struggling in some way, and who need resources, and that's sort of a separate thing. I think that this conversation has been going on for a while, even before it came to MSFI. And there are tenants right now that are struggling and feeling unsafe. And that is, I understand that with lots of time and resources and more planning, that there may be an option for the community to step into this specific place. I think there are also opportunities for them to step into a lot of other places. This one is not specifically a park. It was not designated a park. And it is green space and it is lovely. But I do feel the concern of the residents who live there and who are living with it on a day-to-day basis. And so that's what I keep thinking about. How can we help them today?
Got it. Thank you. Yes.
Vicki Morton, 275 Water Street. I think the last time this came before the MSFI, Bobby Williams, Councilor Williams, had some really good suggestions to put the fence up on the two abutting sides, put a motion detection light in, put out a trash can. We probably aren't going to resolve the issue with the urination and the defecation without some kind of a bathroom, and that's not going to happen at that site. But you do have the option to at least try those suggestions that Councilor Williams presented at the last meeting, and then make a decision. Give it 6 months, give it 9 months, make a decision 6 months, 9 months down the road. I think that some of the reluctance for the East Side neighborhood to step in and say, oh, we'll take over this, it's a little bit of a step too far for the city to have an expectation that a group will come in and take over responsibility for an open space, a green space, which we desperately need. We need it on that side of town. If the city doesn't want the responsibility of policing it, of waste management, of all those things. But I do think that the East Side Neighborhood Group would come together if there was a final decision. You know, if we're going to postpone this for 6 months or 8 months and see what the East Side will or see what the community will do in stepping forward to help out with this park. So you have the option of making a decision. You're not going to make a decision for 8 to 9 months, or you can make the decision tonight to sell it. So either way, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? A hand in the back. Yeah.
Hey everyone, Jody Newell. I live at 32 Leverett Street. And so admittedly not like right around the corner from the space that we're talking about. I think, there are a couple of things that kind of pique my attention as we're having this conversation. First of all, let me just say thank you for sending it back to the committee, because I think that it's wonderful to be able to have this conversation a little bit more and flesh it out a little bit more. And one of the things I really want to say about that is that, you know, I don't think that necessarily always people are paying attention to what is on every agenda. I don't know that people necessarily know, you know, I live across the street from a wide open field, right? And, you know, I've heard things coming out of that space at night or whatever, but during the day, it's you know, filled with school children, you know what I mean, doing wonderful things. I don't know that necessarily people would know what the tenants know, but these are the things that need to be understood in order for us to come up with a good solution. And I don't know that necessarily everybody in that space has been paying attention to the degree that they understand, oh, this actually could be taken away. And what I've seen in this conversation is people saying, oh, wait a second, you know, oh, I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that space. Wait a second, I was part of putting that space together. This space is special to me in one way or another. And these are people who haven't been part of the conversations between the abutters and the city manager and city councilors and people who are in the know. These are people who aren't necessarily in the know. And so I guess when it comes down to it, my fundamental point would be to say this: I'm willing, I'm happy to stand up. I'm happy to participate in the maintenance of this space. I would love to do that. I am a person who, I mean, it's so funny because it was embarrassing for me to say this, but you know, that I would take my kids to the playground and I'd go pick up trash while my kids were at the playground because I didn't like to see it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a trash picker-upper, but at the end of the day, it was because I wanted to leave the space better than when I got there, right? Leave it better than what I found it. And I think that there's a certain degree of, you know, people need to know that to appreciate it. And I think that what has happened through this conversation is people starting to realize that, you know, maybe this thing we took for granted won't always be there. And what will it look like if we don't stand up now? So I'm happy to be a part of that. I'm not a part of the East Keene. I'm not an East Keene resident, but I'm happy to be a part of that, and I would love to be a part of that, and that would really make me very happy. So, yeah, I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. There was another hand in the back. Good evening.
Hello. My name is Tracy DeSteff. I live at 110 Church Street. I've lived at 110 Church Street since December 1st of 2018. I have been resident with drug dealers in the building. There was somebody that passed away in the building. There was someone that I helped revive from overdosing in that park. Every day I go and pick up trash. This weekend, after they came through and did the mowing, they didn't want to go in that back corner because there were people sitting back there smoking whatever they were smoking and drinking. So they just did, like much of the Parks and Recreation, they can't go in there and force those people out, so they just do what they need to do and go. So I went through all day Thursday and all day Friday and weeded and snipped out as much as I could with scissors and a lone rake and soapy water and just washed all the sidewalks and even behind the dumpster at 103 Roxbury Street. And over the weekend, I saw residents from the Cleveland building come out and sit down on those benches that usually don't sit there because I disinfected everything. And I saw some man come out in his work clothes behind the dumpster to take the trash out, which has never happened. So every day, it's basically the police don't have time because they're shorthanded and they know it's the same person they just dealt with a few hours ago. They have the ability to move them to a new location. And I'm sorry if this is offensive to anybody, but the folks that are doing this have been in and out of treatment. I've seen them go in and out of the hospital. I've seen them go in and out and they come out sober and then 2 months later they're back at it. And so I've lost all understanding for that, I guess. I think selling it would allow somebody to gain more no trespass order control to keep the misuse of the property. I definitely agree with the lighting at night, because they'll sit on one of the benches that's the furthest away from the street sign, so you can't see them, and they squish all on the same bench so nobody can be seen. And like other people have noted, by the time the police get there, they're usually gone. And the community members in the abutting properties at 110, 116 have a strong enough community network now that one of us will call the police and we'll all go over together if we're all outside. So that's helpful. And certainly with the new locks, that's helpful, because in the wintertime, they come in and they say, because they know my name, oh, well, I know her, so I can sleep in the hallway. And they're like, no, you can't. And I don't give permission for people to sleep in the hallway, so. I don't have any disagreement with the sale of it. I don't think that anyone has any bad intentions with that space. I don't think they want to just plow everything down, because even if they wanted to use it as a parking lot, there's so many more zoning issues they'd still have to ask the city, I believe, right? They couldn't just go ahead and do that, right? So, yeah, and, you know, I know there's other community members. There's a lady that's a manager at a Chili Agway. She lent me a leaf blower. I went all down the street. It's trash and cigarette butts. We don't have a trash can, which is okay, because I know at one point, city was worried about needles being in it. And when an officer arrived for something a couple weeks ago, he actually found one. That was the first one that I knew of in 5 years, but it's still happening. I definitely don't think a porta potty is going to be successful, because there used to be a porta potty at Patricia Russell Park, and I know one summer they had, I think, like 12 overdoses before they had actually redone it. So I think with that closed space back there, it would encourage it. I think a downtown bathroom, different story, because there's enough people around, so. And I know I've messaged a few of you. I wish I could have showed you the pictures, but when you write into you, there's no way to like attach pictures to a message, so. Yeah, I did as best as I could, like I said, with scissors and a laundry rake, so. So I thank you for your time. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for your comments. I think we owe it to the petitioner to make a decision what we're doing, and up or down, and, yeah, I'll get to you in a second, and then
Okay.
pass on a recommendation to the council, and they'll decide. Yeah.
Okay. I have to agree with something that Councilor Tobin said. This is not a pocket park. It's not a park. It's not under control by Parks and Recreation. This is just basically just a green, small piece of property. I want to, as far as the pocket park goes, there is one about 100 yards down the road on Church Street on the left. That is a pocket park controlled by the city. And then Pat Russell Park's just a few steps further down the road. And of course, you know, about a quarter mile away, you have Robin Hood Park. So within that area, we do have some pretty good green spaces, and some that the city has spent some pretty good money on and continues to do so. And I want to, something that Councilor Favalise had said, I know we both have taken a recent ride with the police, and one thing we have in common is that when we both went out, we both heard from the police that out of all the areas in Keene, all the neighborhoods, that's probably the #1 spot where the Keene police go for trouble. Of all the places they have to visit, it's that one piece of property. And when you're riding with them, and I'm sure the councilor agrees, probably heard the same thing, the police officer dread going by there because they know what's going to happen, and it's going to tie up an officer for a good part of the night. A month ago, when it came to here, we all agreed we'd put it on more time, give it a month for somebody to come up with a better solution. Well, we're a month later and nobody really has a better solution. For my 1/15th of being a counselor, the city does not want this property. I don't want to get involved where somebody says, yeah, we'll take care of it, because ultimately the city's going to be responsible for it anyhow. And if somebody decides they don't want to take care of it, the city's still on the hook, the police department is still going there. And as far as comments about let's do a motion detector, let's do lights, let's do a fence, well, if we're doing all that, that just shows we have a problem. I think at this point, honestly, I would like to see the city sell it to the abutter, to the property owner next door. They have the most invested in this area. They provide jobs, they pay taxes, and as the gentleman spoke, they have to provide extra security because of people that are hanging out there and getting into their building. So while I completely understand where people think maybe we can come up with something more, spend 30 days, and I have a gut feeling if we go another 30 days, the same thing's going to happen. Nobody really wants to invest the money in it, except the city. So I think at this point, I think it is best for the committee to make a recommendation to send to the full 15-member council. We don't make the decision here tonight. We just make our opinion and send to the full 15-member council. And let the 15-member council get involved in this. Instead of coming back every 30 days and kicking the can down the road, I think we should send it to the full council for a vote and see where the full 15-member council wants to go with this.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Second time.
Is this on?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So before you take that vote, I guess I wasn't aware coming into this meeting that there was a call on the street to get a community group together that was going to volunteer and come up with the solution that you asked for. Very specifically, at the beginning of the meeting, you said, what is the solution from the community members to maintain and take care of this park? So that hasn't happened yet. So I think at this point, though, before you vote to sell it, and I hear what Counselor says here, that we should do it today. There's no time to waste. I think it is worth taking some time to see if the community, now giving understanding that that's your position, that if the property, if no one wants to adopt the property and take care of the property, then we're going to sell it. So I would suggest to give it a little more time, maybe the community, others. We heard other people talk about volunteering and getting involved. Let that happen. Let that try to happen first before you go sell it. It isn't just a piece of green space. It's really a beautifully designed little square. All the other corners are atrocious. They're just gravel and parking. So part of having a city is having these nice little gems throughout the city. I know we have 20 pocket parks, but we don't, this is one that's there. And it's very nice. When I walk down that street, I always look towards it. I see the plants growing. I look into it. There's a beautiful stone wall. It's really well done. And so just to get rid of it for that reason, I think there could be other solutions, and maybe let the community try again to come together and then bring some solution to you if that's what you're asking for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep, second time, last time. That's,
First time.
I say in the back, yeah.
Very quickly, if this property were to be offered for sale to a group other than the abutting properties, then we need more information about it. Given time, I think that there would be enough concerned citizens with good ideas that could come up with a solution. 30 days is nothing. Takes longer to do a lot of other things in town. We haven't solved the other problems we have, so I don't think that this is a life or death problem. Also, I would say that if the owners were concerned, it was incumbent upon the private owners to put up their own outside lighting or a motion detector there, or the fence at their own expense. It was not absolutely needed to be done by the city. They could have put something on their own property.
Okay, thank you. Peter, did you want to?
Yeah, I guess so.
Should we bring the microphone to you, or you?
No,
That was the first
I'll over
person.
there. No,
Sure.
I'll over there.
That's on the back also.
But that was the first. He hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah. The guy in the back.
Yeah.
Peter Hartz, Brook Street. Thank you for your time. Once it's gone for good. And there's so many things I want to say about this. My brain is really spinning. I've taken care of what I could for the last 5 years and seen some improvement. You know, that space is really only a trouble space when the weathers are nice. I mean, in the winter, nobody's there unless they're really freezing cold. But that's sort of a side point. The fact that, you know, it's really just 6 months out of the year. And secondly, the problem isn't the park, it's people. And the people aren't even the problem. The problem is that they have problems. And somebody else brought this up, and I don't see why the police, if they know that this is where their most problems are, and it's less than a mile from their headquarters, and it's clearly visible on two sides anyway, drive around that corner, and you can see everything that's going on from your cruiser without even getting out of the car. And if it weren't that this place is where they're going to find the difficulties, the people that have issues and need help, where will they look next? Because if they're dispersed, it's going to be a much bigger job for the police. And or are we just pushing them further so that we don't have to see that? We just don't want to see it. You know, oh, those people. I've heard that about, walking down the bike path. Okay, well, those people. You know, they're us. They're the same as us, and they're citizens of Keene. And they may not pay taxes, but they're still a population of Keenites, and we have to live with it. It's like putting your head in the sand to think that, well, we're going to get rid of this park and the problem will go away. It's not going away. You'll just spread it out. And also, secondly, I don't believe for a minute that the property owners intend to keep it as a park. The lot line for 110 and 110 Church Street and the green space can be amended through procedures with the city council and the committees so that it's one big lot, and then the lot restrictions change, and that would become much more developable. So once it's gone, and there is a chance that a group could be formed. There's an East Keene Neighbors and Friends group that is very active on the internet, and also there's a group that meets on the first Monday of every month for East Keene that came out of the Pat Russell Park redevelopment, and it's very active. Many, many people go to that. And I'm sure that we could work with the city to develop a plan that would resolve issues with those people. And even the cost of a light and some fencing would go a long way for for very little expense. And we have also a full-time, I believe, social worker on the police force. And if that's true, then let's get the social worker involved and see what can be done. Also, it's not just the green space, but there are two benches that are across Norway Avenue from the green space that are still, I think they might be city property. They're city benches like that used to be downtown. And that is a place they congregate mostly now. I've driven past there every day for the last month, and I don't see really any problem in the park at all. I just see people sitting on the bench, and yes, they leave debris. And I'm not there at night. I can't be there at night, but if that's an issue, then I think we can address it. It's just when you sell this and those people won't be there, and the police won't know that they're there and be able to address the situation. They'll have to go someplace else, and it'll be a much more dispersed situation, and the police will still have to respond. I don't think it'll be solving the problem of those people by selling this park. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Gentleman in the back, would you want to grab the last word? You want something?
Arturo Dumas. I live in 110th Street. I live in a apartment on 110th Street, Church Street, and I see the park all the time. I don't care if people go there and have a good time, like, do the right thing. Like, my antennas don't gotta call the cops on them. Because even if you sell it, don't sell it, it's always gonna be the same thing. But I don't mind if people go there with their family, their kids play in the park. I don't mind that. That don't bother me. But when people go there to drink and that, something else. My antennas will call the cops. The cops will come sometime. Now, they see my antennas calling the cops, they leave because they know the cops gonna show up. So that's the way the park been clear lately because of it. Nobody been hanging out in the park that much. They've been across the street on the benches. Some people come through and they keep moving. Some people just sit there and live there. Maybe like 2 or 3 people probably stay there overnight because they don't got nowhere to go or they don't make it to the shelter. There's no bed in the shelter. But I don't mind if they bring their kids, whatever. They sell the place and they own it, whatever. I don't mind if people come with their kids, even if they got a trespass order, whatever. If people come with their kids, that's fine for me. But every other thing, drinking, I don't allow that in the park, and I don't. So that's the understanding that I think that I understand about the park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, as Council Filio pointed out, this committee will make a recommendation to the city council. So that'll be next Thursday. If some organization comes together with a plan, I'm sure that, I'll read it when I present whatever our motion is to the council, and we'll see what they come up with, if they want to go forward with whatever plan or go forward with a sale. And here's another thought. It may be possible that the abutter doesn't buy it, that maybe our price is too high or something of that sort. I'm sure it'll be reasonable, but nonetheless, there's no guarantee that there is a sale impending. Yeah.
Thank you. It's clear, through the comments, it's indicative that we have a much larger problem in the city than this one park. And I think everyone on the council on this committee and on council recognizes that. I do feel for the abutters and the close tenants nearby. And I know you would like a decision made, and a decision will be made tonight. But I am, Ms. Koss, her comments about a fenced-in dog park really interested me and piqued my interest. But I would be comfortable giving this no later than the end of November, with the understanding that the city manager and Public Works and/or Public Works works with the interested community members to form a solid plan. And in the meantime, for Public Works to do some very minimum cost-effective changes to help improve the situation over there in the meantime. I will say I am cautiously optimistic that that would even work. I do feel like at the end of November, we'd be selling this property because, it was unsuccessful. But I would love to be proven wrong, so that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Mr. Bohannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as a point of reference, and I had worked with Mr. Soulis back in November of 2023 related to a concern at that time. We ended up installing 20 feet of fence that was alongside the dumpster, and that was pretty much all we could install because of the pole, the lighting pole in that location. That was $3,500. So just as a point of reference, as if we build things out as far as the scope of work, that's just What we know right now is what that particular cost was for the 20 feet, and you're looking at a lot more, but I just want to give you that point of reference.
And did I see you flinch when someone said dog park?
No comment.
He was involved with the building of our current dog park, which, how much did that cost?
110?
$110,000. Bring your dog, please. Okay, I do think that we need to make a decision, and if the full council disagrees with it, or if a plan suddenly appears next Thursday, that may influence it. So all that being said, anyone else? Good. Motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move to recommend that the city manager be authorized to do all things necessary to negotiate and execute the sale of 100 Church Street, parcel number 574-015.
Second.
And the motion seconded by Council Filio. Anything further from the committee, public? All in favor of the motion? That would be 4 and 1 opposed. Right? Yes. Okay, that's what's happening, and tune in next Thursday and see what the council does. Okay, moving on. We have a engineer report, right? Who is presenting the Beaverbrook situation, right? Beaver Street and Spring Street bridges. I think this will probably be a little easier to make a decision, right? Maybe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Brian Roof, City Engineer. Last winter, about 15 months ago, the New Hampshire Department of Transportation performed their biannual inspection of city-owned and maintained bridges in accordance with the National Bridge Inspection Standards, which they're required to do. Based on that inspection that was performed by the department, 3 bridges were identified as having critical deficiencies, those within the city. Those included George Street Bridge over Beaver Brook, Spring Street Bridge over Beaver Brook, and Beaver Street Bridge over Beaver Brook. Of these 3 bridges, which were already red listed, the 9 red listed bridges within the city, the George Street Bridge was currently under design and is, I'm happy to say, out to bid for construction. So that is going to be addressed as part of that replacement of that bridge. The other 2 bridges, Spring Street and Beaver Street, were required to be assessed to determine the reduced adjusted load rating for those bridges to determine what could safely cross over those bridges. In light of that, the engineering division solicited scope and fees from qualified engineering firms and selected Hoyle and Tanner to perform that assessment of those bridges. They expedited their work since this was in the interest of public safety and completed this inspection and assessment in about 6 weeks. So very good work by them. Essentially, the Reader's Digest version is they reviewed the bridges and performed structural calculations in accordance with the AASHTO Manual for Bridge Evaluation and the AASHTO LFRD Bridge Design Manual, and determined that both bridges should be posted for a weight limit of 8 tons for pedestrian vehicles, not pedestrian, passenger. Thank you. Thank you so much. The reason I say that is because we are working to confirm the associated load rating for emergency vehicles and city vehicles to ensure that we can still maintain access through that. They are working, Hoyle and Tanner is working on that currently to develop the recommendations for that. But for the purposes of just a standard vehicles, cars, trucks, whatnot, with standard 2 axles, the load rating limit that they're recommending is 10 tons for both of those bridges. Within the next, I would say, 2 weeks or so, we'll have a determination by then on what of the city's existing vehicles should not be using those bridges in the interest of public safety, and the bridges will be posted with those load ratings. In addition to that, we'll be recommending to DOT to potentially add these to the the bridge replacement program and building both of these bridge replacements into the CIP. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on this issue.
What's the school best way?
Oh. Well, it varies based on the type, but typically about 24-ish tons.
24 tons?
Yeah.
A school bus is that heavy?
Well, it depends on the load. Depends on the load. Depends on how many kids, and there's a lot of factors
I know,
for
and
it.
there's a lot of obesity in school children.
So essentially, because the abutment spans are 12 feet and 18 feet, the axle point or point load on the bridge is distributed so that a school bus could still potentially
Okay, I
cross.
forgot-
That is being confirmed, yes, by Hoyle
I forgot I
and
was
Taylor.
talking to an engineer.
Right.
So it's safe for a school bus?
Yes.
That's all I want to know.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, Don Lucier, Public Works Director. As Brian kind of alluded to, we got this initial report from the consultant, and we asked them to dig a little bit deeper and do a little more nuanced analysis. And honestly, school buses aren't the primary concern because, quite honestly, school buses can adjust their schedule, they can adjust their routes to pick up the students that they need to pick up. The larger concern for us right now that we're trying to work out is the impact that this is going to have on the provision of emergency services for the east side of Keene. Station 1, Bridges, east side of Keene. We just did a very quick Google map kind of analysis. Right now, for a fire truck responding from Central Station to the east end of Beaver Street, it's about a minute. If they have to instead go up Washington to the next bridge that isn't weight restricted, which is Giffen Street, and then wind their way back down, and then do that same return trip to get somebody to the hospital, that's going to add something like 5 to 8 minutes to that response. And that really is a life safety issue. That's why we haven't posted the bridge at this point. We're trying to figure out exactly what we can do to mitigate that concern before we take any actions.
Okay, committee questions? Public questions? Thank you. You're up.
I move to recommend that the city engineer's report related to weight limits for Beaver Street and Spring Street bridges be accepted as informational.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Anything further, committee, public? All in favor? That would be unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. What?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out an item associated with A1 that we had. Because of the funny route that the 100 Church Street matter had, we did have communications come in that have come up on your agenda, and we have a proposed motion to just file those as informational. I don't want us to lose those in the shuffle.
Oh, that's a good thing to remember. Okay, so therefore, the chair moves to accept the petitions as informational.
Second.
Anything? All in favor? Boom. Doing your job. Thank you.
Thank
Keep
you.
me on task here. Okay, now we are going to be discussing item 3, rules for operation of bicycles, ordinance O 2025-33. And once again, Director.
Sadly, now I've got to do my job. And that's to talk about the rules for bicycle use in our soon-to-be new bike lanes. And for the projectionist, if we can bring up the screen so we can follow along. A couple of weeks ago, or I guess now close to a month ago, no, I guess that was only a couple weeks ago. Yeah, something like that. We presented a draft of the ordinance that we talked about a little bit before it was submitted formally for first reading. And there were some suggestions and preferences expressed by different members of the committee. But to be quite honest, I didn't hear in your discussion whether there was like a committee consensus on a lot of those comments. So I haven't made any changes to the draft as it was presented a couple of weeks ago. So I expect that as we talk through this tonight, you're gonna recommend some changes, and we're going to end up with an A version of this ordinance. So that said, I will sort of refresh everyone's memory. Right now, what the city code says about bike rules and the use of bikes in the city, it just says simply that the rules for operation of bicycles on public ways or on public property shall be as set forth in the RSAs. It lists the relevant section of the RSAs. And the RSAs that are cited there, they cover everything from the minors using helmets and having to have lights on your bicycles, and you have to ride on a properly fitted seat and what have you. Riding to the right of the road, following all the rules of vehicles, etc. So it's a pretty comprehensive set of rules that it's already referencing. The proposed ordinance that's in the packet tonight would add to that. So it would say, yes, in all cases, you have to follow state rules, but within bike lanes and bike trails, these mixed-use bicycle facilities, these additional rules also apply. And that's really, where we talked about last time, kind of the distilled comments of Bike Pack and the work of the mayor and city manager's bike rules committee that we met and talked about this. This is what we kind of boiled it down to. So the first one there is within the downtown core zoning district, the maximum permissible speed shall be 10 miles per hour. And I believe it was, I don't remember who said this, but I know somebody expressed a preference to keep it at 8 miles per hour, which is, was that you, Mr. Chair? So that was something that was discussed last time. We can talk about that more. My recommendation would be to keep it with the 10 miles an hour, but that is completely within your legislative discretionary function. But it would apply within the downtown core zoning district. So it would apply to the bike lanes that are going to be built. It would also apply to the rail trail as you're coming into the downtown. So both of those instances would be affected. The second one, where bike lanes are provided adjacent to roadways, cyclists shall only travel in the same direction as the adjacent lane. So that gets to the point of these are one-way, circular, counterclockwise fashion. Third one, no person shall stop, park, or load any bicycle or other vehicle in such a way as to obstruct the public use of bike lanes or multi-use paths. That's a provision that came out of Bicycle Pack that I didn't think was really covered by the existing ordinances or the RSAs, so we added that. Bicycles and other personal vehicles shall not be parked or left unattended within the public way except at a bike rack provided for such purpose. So this is actually would be a more stringent requirement than what's in the RSAs that are cited at the top of the article. Right now, what the RSAs say is you can park your bicycle on a sidewalk, provided that it doesn't obstruct the public's use of the sidewalk. So, but again, it's within your purview and your authority to make a more stringent requirement than that if you wanted to. And then finally, bicycles must have a front white and rear red light if operated between half hour after sunset and a half hour before sunrise. And this, I am going to actually recommend deleting this item from the provisions. It was a suggestion and a recommendation from the Bike Pack. Right now, and the reason I'm recommending that it not be included is the other section of our ordinance. The next paragraph says that it's regarding equipment. No person shall ride a bicycle on public ways or public property of the city unless it is equipped as required by RSA 266, 85 through 89. What the RSAs say is you've got to have a front light but the rear is, the requirement is for a reflector, and that reflector has to be visible from 300 feet when somebody shines a light on it, basically. You have, again, you have the authority to make a more stringent requirement. It just may be difficult for people to know that we have a rule that's different than every other community in the state, and that they think their bicycle is compliant, except it doesn't have an illuminated light, it just has a reflector. I just think that's going to create more difficulty in being compliant. It might be tough to enforce. So my suggestion is that the reflector actually gets to what Bike Pack is trying to accomplish. We want bikes to be visible when they're operating at night without actually having the illuminated rear light. So that is the distilled takeaway. And the other thing I will add, Section 94, 466 talks about operation of bicycles on sidewalks. So under state law, you are allowed to operate a bicycle anywhere where it is, you are allowed to operate a bicycle on a sidewalk. We are allowed to prohibit the use of bicycles on city-maintained roadways, and we've chosen to do that. So what 466 says is bicycles, skateboards, scooters, and other similar motorized vehicles may be ridden on all sidewalks and parked areas of the city except for the following, and then it goes on to list everything that you and I would call downtown, right? So it's the southern part of Washington Street and Court Street, Main Street, it's the parking lots, all those things that we think of as the downtown. Basically, this is the part of the ordinance that says you can't ride your bikes on the sidewalk in the downtown. We're not proposing to change any of that. So it's still the case that you can't ride your bike on the sidewalks. The bike lanes are differentiated from the sidewalks by the fact of 464 and 466.
Jacob. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some overall comments about the ordinance. I'll save those for a second. This section 94, 466, and maybe I'm reading it incorrectly, or maybe it's covered in another section, but bicycles, skateboards, scooters, other similar unmotorized wheeled or unwheeled vehicles, where does that leave us in this section with electric bikes, electric scooters?
By state law, e-bikes are bicycles.
Okay.
So they would be included in this provision.
Thank you.
And again, that means that they can ride on sidewalks outside of the downtown, prohibited within the downtown.
Yep, Councilor. Well, as I said a couple of weeks ago, well, I appreciate the efforts on the ordinance. You know, it looks good on paper. Realistically, it's virtually and completely unenforceable. Just one example is, say we're going to have 10 miles an hour sidewalk. I don't think we're going to have any police down there with radar. I think it looks good on paper. I think it's completely unenforceable. And I have mentioned before that I will not vote for any ordinance that allows anything with a motor on the paths downtown. I want to talk about the paths, you know, out of downtown, fine, they're straighter. Just the last couple of days, I've mentioned the electric scooters that I've seen going around Keene. It was much faster than 10 miles an hour. Actually doing a little research on those. The scooters average 20 to 30 miles an hour. The high performance ones goes 30 miles an hour plus. Saw an electric skateboard on our street the other day. Couldn't believe my eyes because it literally was going to pass me. They go up to 40 miles an hour. And then, you know, talking about the electric bikes, the class 3 pedal assist go up to 28 miles an hour. The high performance models go up to 40 miles an hour.
So,
is checking with the state that we can adopt an ordinance that does disallow motorized vehicles as long as it's specific in our ordinance in the downtown area, even on what's designated as a bike path. Checked into that. Realistically, the way the bike path is going to be set up is when people get out of the car, feed the kiosk, because there won't be meters there. As soon as they step onto the sidewalk, that's the bike path. These scooters are stealth. The skateboards are stealth. Not even so much the pedal assist bikes. That's probably the least of the worries, although they are heavy, and trying to keep those under 10 miles an hour is pretty much an impossible feat. Can be done, but just watching the scooters and the skateboards buzz around, It's not a matter of if somebody's going to get hit, it's a matter of when. How quick, when we set up downtown, is somebody going to step into the path of one of those stealth electric vehicles that the torque on those picks up at immediate speed and get hurt? So, like I said a couple weeks ago, last month, anything with a motor on it that's going to be on the streets downtown, on the sidewalks downtown, on the bike path downtown, as far as that ordinance goes, I'm out. And Councilor Fablese was mentioning a little while ago, you want to see a problem, go down Keene State, and when you walk walk some of the sidewalks at Keene State with those electric vehicles, you're taking your life in your own hands. So, like I said, I don't think this is a matter of if somebody gets hurt. I think it's a matter of when. As a matter of fact, Mayor Khan mentioned that a month ago. It's on the record. It's in the minutes that it's a matter of when somebody gets hurt downtown. Doesn't have my vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yeah.
Just to clarify something, I mentioned the state law says that e-bikes are vehicles, that they are allowed, on sidewalks and whatnot. That I should have added a little nuance there. What it actually says is Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes are allowed to use sidewalks. In no case is a Class 3 bike allowed to use a sidewalk. So when Councilor Filio mentioned they can go up to 28 miles per hour, that would be a Class 3 e-bike. Those are never allowed on sidewalks. They would have to use the roadway.
If I could follow up with that, there will be nobody enforcing, was it
Yes,
Class 1?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. There will be nobody, the same people that will not be enforcing the 10-mile-an-hour speed limit will be not going downtown and saying, I wonder if that's a Class 1, a Class 2, or a Class 3. I wonder if that scooter is a Class 1, a Class 2, or high performance. We'll find out after they hit somebody, but not until then, because there will be no enforcement on this ordinance. Let's be real on it. There will be no enforcement. Going one way, going the other way. We don't have enforcement now. We have bikes that aren't supposed to be on the sidewalks downtown. We have skateboards that aren't supposed to be on the sidewalks downtown. Sit down there for an hour every day and watch it. We don't have the enforcement now. We will not have the enforcement then. I will not support an ordinance that looks good on paper that is completely unenforceable in real life.
Councilor, you've been very clear. I appreciate that.
I didn't want to leave a little doubt there.
Just wanted to clarify what I'd said earlier.
Thank you. Always appreciated.
Okay, just a comment to throw into this. I'm sure that there are regular bicycles without motors that easily can do 20 miles an hour. So it is going to come back to personal responsibility. Now, we got into this conversation about a bike lane a long time ago, and I think there were a lot of concerns expressed about safety and where you have the, the stores and the restaurants and the tables and pedestrians and dogs and bikes and cars. It is a lot of competing interests downtown, and it's going to have to come back to personal responsibility because Councilor Filio is right. Enforcement is going to be very difficult. I won't say not at all, but it's going to be difficult. And you could certainly ride a non-motorized bike very irresponsibly. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree. I share Councilor Filio's concerns around the enforcement piece, and I had kind of led with that last time we talked about this. I have thought quite a bit over the past couple of weeks around this e-bike, e-scooter issue. I am interested in hearing some more discussion. I know Councilor Filio and I have weighed in on the side of concern. And, I said it half joking earlier before the meeting, but it really is true that my experience on campus over the past 4 years at Keene State has left me very wary of sharing, sidewalk grade space with these electric scooters, electric bikes. To Councilor Filio's point, these are quiet. They can really move up on you. And I have some concerns about whether that is appropriate in the downtown core and whether that's really consistent with the intent of the bike lanes around the downtown. But I would like to hear other members of the committee weigh in on that, and I'm sure folks at council will have some comments as well. One of the pieces that is missing from this, as far as I'm concerned, and I brought this up last time as remembering that Councilor Tobin had brought this up, I don't want to get into a situation with electric vehicles, non-electric bikes, scooters, skateboards, where we're seeing things downtown, landscaping downtown, some of the infrastructure downtown, within the bike lanes, on the sidewalks, whatever it is, being used for tricks, being used for things other than transport to and from point A to point B. And I don't know exactly what the language there looks like. I welcome suggestions on that, but that to me is something that I had not previously considered when we discussed this months ago. Councilor Tobin brought it up, and since this has come back, it's been top of mind for me, is that we have the bike lanes. I think we should have some kind of ordinance, even though I share concerns about the enforcement, but I want to make sure we need to do this in a responsible way, and I want to make sure we're addressing as many possibilities for unsafe operation as possible.
Anyone else have anything to add to the conversation? Yes, sir, back there.
Pete Moran, 38 Myrtle Street. A couple of years ago, when the bike lane was first introduced as a thought, I asked the folks up at the rec center doing the exposition on the sale, and I asked pointedly, how do you control the bike lanes? Nobody replied. I came to a city council meeting subsequently, and I stood here and I asked the question then, and not one soul said one word. Who is going to control it? My thought was, it won't be, and this is what I said then, it won't be the meter maid, it won't be the crossing guard. The KPD is going to be called upon once again, and they're short, just like the discussions about the park. KPD is short. Who's going to monitor it? Who's going to make sure the bikes go one way? Not going to happen. And Jacob, you voted for the downtown project, and now you're expressing concerns about the bike lane. So there's a contradiction there. Councilor Filio, I think you're absolutely correct. I was at a meeting a while ago on another matter, and I'm glad you spoke up. At any rate, the bike path, you've introduced another mode of transportation with speed in a very compressed area. If I had a horse, are you going to accommodate horse paths? So on a side note, I don't know if any of you realize how many bicycles are over at 100 Nights. It's a bike park over there. And those folks do not have an interest whatsoever in bike safety. They ride around totally oblivious to anybody. Railroad Square, it's sad. My suggestion back then was a bike park, and people get off their asses and they go walk downtown. And that was blown off. And there are plenty of places potentially. I also said how much, I looked at the maps or the plans, and we have bike racks here, there. So if you got 100 bicycles, there's not enough bike racks. So then what? They're going to park wherever? You go to Bagel Works, and there'll be 10 bicycles leaning against the tree because there's no place for them. Well, oh well. Who's in charge? Who gets the right of way? If I step on the bike path, do I have the right of way over a bicycle or a skateboard? So there's the question which is not in the ordinance. Who has the right of way? Anybody want to try that?
Yeah,
I'm asking the Public Works.
It's actually covered in state law. Because by state law, bicycles are considered a vehicle. The pedestrian has the right of way in the same way that a pedestrian has a right of way over a vehicle. That said, pedestrians are also expected to exercise due care. So,
well, on that note, go look at the crosswalks down by the college. They don't put down their cell phones when they walk on a crosswalk. They just go right across expecting everybody to stop for them, and they totally ignore any common sense. So from day one, I've been opposed because another mode of transportation in a compressed area is absurd. The dollar value was shunted off saying, well, it's only 60, 70, 80, 100,000, whatever it is. So we don't need to cut it because it's incidental. Yet we have a 16-inch main water line in this city that is a problem, and it's been pretty quiet for a while, but we can put money into a bike path downtown. So I'm in full agreement with Councilor Filio. Who's going to be the first one to step out and take the hit? The EMTs in the county as well as the city, well, they need more EMTs. All right, how many more ambulances do we need? I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous that the council even voted for bike paths. And then you vote, yeah, all for it, except Councilor Filio. You expressed concerns now, and you voted for it. You're not representing the taxpayers here. It's ridiculous. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman. 1 minute. Don, can we put something in this ordinance to say, not to say no motorized, but no motor may be used on?
College kids can't read.
And I recognize the fact that enforcement would be very, very slim, but I'm hoping, I'm back to that personal responsibility, and I hope that signage is going to affect some people anyway. Can we say no bicycles under power, some way to phrase it? Or city attorney, you got any thoughts?
There is a provision in the RSAs that do provide the authority to regulate the Class 1 and the Class 2s in the bike lanes. That is something you're authorized to basically, they are permitted by right, and under the statute, you can take that away, if that's clear.
All right, let me rephrase the
Okay.
question. I have the kind of electric bike that you have to pedal, so I don't know if that's Class 1 or Class 2. I want to be prohibited from riding the thing under power, but I want to be allowed to ride it by pedal. How can we phrase that? Maybe that will make you a little happier.
I'm happy all the time.
I might have to think
You wanna
about
think
that.
about it?
This is,
Okay.
I just want to confirm that state law lets us get into that minutia. I know there's the RSAs say you can regulate and be more strict, but I do want to cross-compare what's in there as far as if there's a distinction like that. I haven't explored that idea yet.
Okay.
It just so happens that I have the RSAs. A Class 1 or Class 2 electric bicycle may be ridden on bicycle paths or on multi-use paths where bicycles are permitted. However, a city, town, or state agency having jurisdiction over a bicycle or multi-use path may prohibit the operation of a Class 1 or Class 2 electric bicycle on that path. Now, it says we can prohibit it. It doesn't say we can regulate how you use it if we're allowing them to use it.
All right, so I'm going to give you time. A lady in the front, then Rebecca.
Hi, Jennifer Sizo, 10 Fairfield Court. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I appreciate everyone's concern about public safety. I think that most of the people riding bikes are responsible. I think I've ridden a bike for years. I watch out for people opening their car doors. I am alert. I mean, if you have kids, you're going to teach them to do that too. I mean, I think that e-bikes are here. They're here. They're the future. They're not going away. I think other towns, other cities have bike lanes that are used by all types of bicycles. I don't think we should prohibit them. I think that it's not, will there be problems? Definitely. Of course, there's always problems with anything. I don't think people are going to be doing wheelies in the bike lane. There's no room, I don't think that's where they're going to choose to go. I just think that any kind of bicycle is okay in a bike lane because people who come from out of town, they're not going to be reading this little sign, oh, I can't take my e-bike downtown. I got to get off, and now I have to walk it. You're not going to do that. I've ridden on many, many roads out in New Jersey. It's busy there. You just watch out, you're just aware of what's going on, and you are responsible. It's personal responsibility. So I just think they should be allowed.
Okay. Another thought, that if someone wants to ride an e-bike 20 miles an hour, they can just go and dodge cars.
They can absolutely do that.
They could do it in the road. But I would like to see if there's some way to say no on power in the bike lane. And we'll see what comes out. Anyone else want to have something? Oh, I'm sorry, Rebecca, thank you. Uh-oh. You got notes.
Rebecca Landry, Deputy City Manager. I know, Mr. Chair, that you had questions about educational campaigns, promotional materials, and so if you have any specific questions, let me know. But we have a communications plan that involves everything from detailed brochures to be available at downtown merchant and businesses if they are willing and interested, as well as key signage. Dawn and I have looked at something that we haven't been able to locate yet, but I know that our Public Works team loves to do innovative and creative projects, and there are...
I think that was sarcasm.
No, it's actually quite sincere. There's an opportunity to put something on the lampposts in a particular type of frame that's at eye level, and it's not huge, and it doesn't mean sticking another sign in the ground somewhere that would be very visible to pedestrians and bicyclists in terms of rules or guidance for what to do and what not to do in the bike lanes. And of course, all of the other standard ways that we get information out, social media, press releases, a primary website that a QR code will lead everybody to if they have more, if they want more information. But if you have any questions, let me know. We do have a comprehensive plan for education.
Okay. What you're saying is pretty much exactly what I'm hoping to see. Would you want to present it next month or the month after? Or?
You'd like a presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I can either provide you a copy of the plan as an informational document in your
Yes.
mailboxes, or I can or we can come to a meeting. Which do you
Yeah,
prefer?
Informational, I think it's part of
Great.
the unrolling to the public what's going on downtown.
So you want it at a meeting? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you.
Public
Take the
first.
gentleman in the back.
Oh, I love it.
Andy Holt, 4th Street in Keene. I'm a member of BPAC, but these are my own thoughts and feelings. Ultimately, I think the proposed rules seem fine to me. They'd probably just stick with the rules from the state instead of trying to add more. I don't think it really changes too much. That said, I'll admit to frustration over how this is being discussed, and it feels like councilors are stoking fear about bicycles as threats. And there are people that rely on these types of wheeled transport to get around the city because they cannot drive, and this includes children and people with disabilities. I wanted to point out that during the downtown project design, this council voted to have diagonal parking instead of parallel. They voted to have 2 driving lanes instead of 1 in each direction. Both of those were in opposition to the recommended plans, and that's led to a proposed plan where I looked it up. It's 80 to 90 feet of the width of between each side. That's just for cars. For comparison, each bike lane will be 5 foot wide with a small buffer on each side. So if you're very concerned about pedestrian safety, as you should be, consider that these decisions did 3 things. They made less space available for sidewalks and for separating the bikes and cars from pedestrians. They kept our crosswalks long, increasing dangerous interactions between cars and pedestrians, especially the mobility impaired. And they allow cars to drive faster than they would with a single travel lane. So it's easy to be concerned about the risk posed by selfish people riding e-bikes too fast, and I'm not dismissing that fear, but what about the risks that we've grown complacent to because they're normalized? A 5,000-pound pickup truck in the heart of our most pedestrianized area, if a self-centered driver is running a red light or ignoring a crosswalk, they're going to go twice as fast as the e-bike with weight of 20 times more. That means pedestrians struck are much more likely to be injured or killed. So how much are we talking about that risk compared to the back and forth over bike lanes? And I think it's because one is more common and we're used to it. So I'd ask that when you're worried about changes around bikes, imagine we're making that change for the first time for cars. And I'm not trying to finger wag, I just want us to consider that if safety is our top priority, then we should be addressing the things that really affect it. Many of us grew up as kids biking around our towns, visiting friends, going to school, and that's really uncommon today because the public realm is built primarily to serve cars going as quickly as possible to their destinations. These cars and trucks are bigger and heavier every year, and the deaths of pedestrians and bikers from automotive violence in our country have skyrocketed as a result. We need these bike lanes, along with the rail trails and other bike routes, to continue building a connected network that separates our vulnerable bicyclists from cars and lets them get around town safely to wherever they're heading. There's a lot of concern about safety for pedestrians, as there should be, but what about the safety for our neighbors and our children when they're on wheels? Their options right now are to illegally ride on the sidewalk and risk collisions with pedestrians, or to ride in the street where a mistake by either the rider or a driver can mean their death. Bike lanes and the rules discussed are also about protecting those people. The alternative isn't between bike lanes and no bikes, it's just between bike lanes and bikers that are at a higher risk of being killed. So if you're worried about dangerous interactions between different modes of travel, separated bike lanes with reasonable guidelines are the best way to keep us all safe. If you bury your head in the sand and insist on the status quo, it's actually more dangerous. And if you're concerned about no enforcement, then creating separated infrastructure, as we're doing, is the solution. The infrastructure creates the behavior. And so if you design it right, it's going to improve the situation rather than making it worse. If you refuse to vote for rules, that doesn't somehow solve the current situation. And I've seen people claim that the lanes aren't needed because the number of people on bikes are fewer. Imagine this argument applied to roads and bridges. Our predecessors saying we don't need to build a bridge to Vermont because almost no one is fording the Connecticut River. It's crazy, right? It's similar with bikes. We need to provide infrastructure so that people have options. So let's make sure we have common sense rules about bike operation. Let's make sure we follow the industry best practices for building separated bike lanes, which we are doing in this proposed plan, or in the approved plan, I should say. And let's make sure that all of our residents and visitors can access our downtown safely, not just those on foot or in cars. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. I have always been in support of the bike lanes. That has not changed. I want to be really clear. The comparisons made to large cities such as Boston or even Keene State campus are very different than what we're talking about downtown. So I just want to really be clear that those are two very different scenarios. And like someone said earlier, there will absolutely be an adjustment period. Our culture is currently changing right now. I sat on the master plan committee, and I hate to say it, but the younger folks want bike lanes. They want multimodal transportation. It is the future. They said the same thing. They're here to stay, and they're going to be increasingly popular. Our community is asking for this. So I do have one question, and I think I've asked it before, and I don't know if I've ever gotten an answer, or maybe I forgot. But is there anything prohibiting the parking enforcement department from allowing council to add that, or the city manager to add that to their duties? Because it would make the most sense. They're already downtown. And, I'm just thinking if there's unions or anything like that, how much red tape would that involve?
City attorney?
It's actually a simpler answer than the logistics. The road regulations, including the bike rules, are assigned to law enforcement, which is KPD, by statute, so it's not something up to us.
That's a state statute.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Oh, Laura. Yeah.
Thank you. Just real quick, I I would say that I'm definitely looking forward to having bike lanes. If possible, I would be open to considering starting with the non-motorized, if that is an option. And I would also say that part of that is that, you know, as a counselor, hearing a lot of information over the course of the past couple of years, my understanding does change. And so sometimes our thoughts and opinions about things do change and evolve. And I think that shows being open-minded. So, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to make sure that we have a very clear and accurate record. By the time that I got on council, Mr. Chair, the decision about a multimodal downtown project had already been made. Yeah. So I have voted along with every single member of this committee, along with 14 other city councilors, to move the downtown project forward through various stages. I have never voted on the question yes or no on bike lanes, so I want to be very clear about that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I did have a hope of actually voting on this and passing it on to council. What? Yeah, let me just finish, if I may. I have great assistance here. But I want to give the city attorney an opportunity, perhaps to come up with a number 5 that addresses to the power issue. So I'm not ready at this moment to put it to more time where there's 2 comments from the public out there, or more. Were there? Yeah, okay, Councilor Haas.
Ed Haas, 114 Jordan. I think my arm was just stuck in the air back there, but the idea of exploring other options for controlling motorized vehicles is an excellent one. And I just wanted to point out that the recommendation out of bicycle pedestrian was for an 8-mile-an-hour speed limit. Thank you.
Okay. And, one sec. Yeah. Anyone else of the public? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, just clear up a couple of things. As somebody who's been born and raised in the city and has been here a long time, as a 9 and 10-year-old, I pedaled my Schwinn Stingray from up in the north end of Keene to the Colonial Theater to watch a John Wayne movie. So as far as riding bikes, I mean, I don't want anybody to think I'm anti-bike, because I'm far from that. The rail trails, all of them, voted positive. In the last 28 years that I've been here, I voted yes on every one of these rail trails. I've always been very accommodating to bicyclists. I just have a problem. We're talking 2 blocks. We're talking 2 city blocks. And I used to hear comments about, well, boy, when people in New York City love it if we could get bikes downtown. Well, if we were to say to them, we can get a bike into downtown Keene within 1 block of every store, would you be happy? Well, yeah, so it's not always apples for apples. You can get an e-bike within 1 block of every store in downtown Keene. We're talking literally equivalent of a block and a half of a city block here. So let's not get overboard about being anti-bike, because I'm not. No, I wasn't a big favor of the bike lanes. That's true, but it's part of the project, so we're dealing with it. All I'm saying, within 2 blocks of the city of Keene, we don't allow anything with a motor on it on those bike trails. And I'm reading state ordinance right here, and it says, yes, we can regulate it. That's up to the city council if we want to regulate it. So all I'm saying is, for 2 blocks in the city of Keene, downtown, we don't have anything with a motor within those 2 blocks. That's it. You want to pedal, pedal. But we're not just talking the e-bikes here. As I brought up before, the problem I'm seeing around downtown Keene right now, and they're having a problem on the Keene State campus, is the scooters and the skateboards. Those are the problems. And they have a tendency, hey, people that pedal the bikes, typically from what I've seen, they're mostly pretty well-mannered, and they're not going that fast anyhow. That is different with electric scooters and electric skateboards, which we're trying to fit in to one category. We're trying to put the square peg in the round hole, and it ain't working. So there is a problem there. I agree with what the lady mentioned, that most people that ride bikes are respectful. They are. That is not so much true with some of the e-bikes, and definitely not true with the electric scooters and the electric skateboards. All I'm saying is, as somebody who's very pro-bicycle and very pro-bike path, and my record is down in the city clerk's office, if anybody needs to go look it up, where my votes have gone, all I'm saying is, keep the motorized vehicles off 2 blocks of downtown streets. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay. I don't want to plow the same ground again, because I think we're saying the same thing over and over. Yeah, a second time.
So how many bikes can be accommodated with the bike racks on what you're going to be doing? Question is, what if those, there are more bikes than what the bike racks will accommodate in mass? What then? Has thought been given to where the overflow would go, which could then lead to additional bike park? Has any thought been given to that? Because, Dawn, do you know how many bike racks are going to be downtown?
Through the chair. It's a little protocol that we do.
Excuse me.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I don't have the total count off the top of my head. I know that we have gone over that, and we'll talk more about the downtown project hopefully in a bit. But basically that each block of the downtown project is going to have at least one bike rack located throughout. And those are different sizes depending on the available space at that location. So it might be 2 of the staples, it could be 4 of the staples in some locations. So by staples I mean the U shape.
Yeah.
So that they're going to be scattered throughout the downtown. My only other comment would be to say that would be a wonderful problem to have, that we had too many people riding their bikes downtown to shop and eat in the restaurants. And I'll be the first one to come forward with a recommendation to add more bike racks if that becomes an issue.
Is there room for the bike racks, additional
Yes.
ones?
Yes.
We'll find it. But
Thank
your
you.
point is made. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. My final comment on this. So I work at Keene State. I'm there Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Just the other day, I was walking to a meeting, and a student, was on their scooter, motorized scooter. He was going, I was walking faster than he was going. He was with a group of friends, so he was literally crawling around. And I stopped and highlighted. I said, wow, I didn't know they could go that slow. So he wasn't shaking, wavering like we heard with if you're going less than 8 miles with a pedal bike. So let's educate ourselves on what we're talking about, please.
Okay, I think we've said it all, and as I said, I do want to give the attorney time to work on it, so Chair moves to put the matter on more time.
Second.
And the city attorney's question is?
I wanted to ask if I find that there is the option to do that. I think the plan had been to have an A version come out of this committee anyway. Do you want us to come back with like a A version drafted with something like
Yeah,
that?
that would-
Do you have any interest in anything else while we're working on it?
Nothing comes to my mind.
Cool.
I still think the blending of the state RSA with our ordinance is real confusing, but if that's the way it is to be, it will be. And ultimately, the assistant city manager will come up with a great educational plan, so we'll know what's going on. Good. Anything, anyone want to add anything? All in favor of more time? Boom, 5. Thank you. And next on the agenda, downtown infrastructure project update from the Public Works Director. Backed up shortly thereafter with our ombudsman.
You can sit next to me. No, you don't get off that easy.
Chair, if I might point out, meeting number 78.
Thank you.
With many more to follow, Counselor.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don Lucier, Public Works Director. Just a relatively quick update tonight. Couple things I wanted to mention on the downtown project. Last week, the Public Works staff, Parks and Rec folks, we all kind of got together and went literally page by page through the construction documents. I think we're up to 268 sheets of drawings at this point for all the different details. Basically, it was a final flip through of the plans to make sure that everything had been addressed and everything was ready to go. Coming out of that, there are some edits and some revisions that the consultant needs to make, but they are in very, very good condition, and we are looking to advertise those for construction sometime in I'd say mid to late October, with bids due in the middle first half of December. So the idea is to get this out there, keep it open for an extended period of time, and open them up before Christmas. So it'll either be a lump of coal or a fantastic Christmas stocking for me to have this project ready to go to contract. So that's where that is at. There was one other issue that was brought up that we want to talk about with you tonight, and I'm not asking for a specific motion on it, because I think that everything we're going to talk about is already part of what was authorized. But there was a suggestion that was raised related to the aesthetic treatment of the bike lanes. Yes, we're going to talk about bike lanes some more.
Andy, could you pass this, please?
And this came about actually from Mr. Chair, who noticed a treatment of a bike lane. I believe you said that was in Montreal. Is that correct?
Someplace in Canada. I don't remember.
So somewhere with somewhere further north. The photo on the right is showing what we no.
Yeah, it's coming around.
Okay.
Oh,
you printed out your own
I made
graphics.
copies.
Okay. Yeah. I used a different graphic, but it's the same aesthetic treatment. It is a treatment called exposed aggregate concrete. Essentially, it's standard concrete, but before it cures, they hit it with a releasing agent, and they essentially wash the paste, the cement paste, off of the surface. So what it does is it leaves the stone that's in the concrete exposed. And they clean all that off. So rather than just having a plain gray concrete, you really get to see the colors and the textures of the stone that's in the concrete mix. Now, for this to look good, it really relies on finding a very nice aggregate that's sort of worthy of being exposed, right? So we would, if this is the direction we want to go, we would get samples from the concrete vendor and make sure that the stone looks nice, and it has a nice variation of colors, nice tones to it, and what have you. The photo on the left it's actually a rendering from the project graphics, but it's showing that the bike lane, instead of being that bright green, is going to be sort of a dark gray concrete. And again, that's just a plain concrete, smooth surface, but it's finished with a color that's dark gray instead of the bright green. And we've talked previously about that green color. For whatever reason, that the pigments used to make concrete green are just absurdly expensive. So we're suggesting one of these two options. That turns out, and I was actually kind of surprised to learn this. I thought the labor to do the exposed aggregate was going to be very labor intensive and expensive. It turns out it's essentially the same cost as the color for the gray concrete. It's about $16 a yard. So one treatment or the other would be about the same cost, in round numbers. Some advantages and disadvantages. The exposed aggregate leaves a very rough texture. So if somebody takes a digger on that, they're going to get a little more scraped up than they would on normal concrete. The positive side of that, of course, is that it's a good textured surface. So if somebody needs to brake hard to avoid that pedestrian that we're afraid they're going to hit, they will have good texture and friction, and they'll be able to stop quickly. The other disadvantage potentially with the exposed aggregate is we are going to have pavement markings on these. So for example, markings to show that the bike lane is one way. They'll have a graphic of a bicycle and a one-way arrow. I'm worried that those pavement markings won't be as crisp because of that texture, right? They might have a little bit fuzzier edges. But otherwise, I think this will be, it'll have good durability. It'll last just as well as regular concrete. And I should note also that that exposed aggregate, from what I've read about it, is typically going to be finished with like a high gloss sealant. So it has a darker look, and it helps those colors of the aggregate, the stone, kind of pop out and be a little more dramatic. That's typically how it's finished. So both of those are viable, about the same cost. One is a colored, what the council has already voted for and authorized us to do was to create impregnated color concrete for the bike lanes. The other one is just plain concrete. So I think both of those are within the scope of what you voted to approve in terms of using concrete in the downtown. So I don't think we need a special motion or a council vote to tell us to go one way or the other. But if you wanted to express your preferences towards that, I think we're satisfied. I'm satisfied with that. Of course, if you disagree and you think that you want to put this to a vote of the full council, that's also your prerogative.
Yeah, okay. There's one other motive that I had, why I like this exposed aggregate concept. If in 2 years, 5 years, we decide no more bike lanes, we just have sidewalk. We don't have a odd green-colored piece of concrete. So I think it would aesthetically be better if that event happens. Probably we will have 100 bicycles downtown, and everyone will be happy and not driving over each other, but this looks so good. I actually took pictures that look that good. Yeah, one more, Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that you almost had me if what you were saying was just a little bit opposite, because I think if we're going to go back at some point to the sidewalk, we would want, I don't like the idea of kind of two different materials there. So I don't know. I also don't know that of all the bike lane related questions that seem to be keeping me up, that this is necessarily one of them. So.
Well, but there's also feature areas as part of the plan, right? Like Railroad Square, that this would be appropriate.
Yeah, and we are proposing stamped concrete in those feature areas, those aggregating areas.
Yeah.
Kind of touching what two councilors just spoke with, in my opinion, is just use the same material that we're using the sidewalks for and not spend any extra money at all. Councilor Greenwald is correct. A year or two down the road, we're finding out they're not getting the use that we thought they would. They just become sidewalk. And just having them the same material makes sense to me. Obviously, you show a marking there, we use a stencil and paint it to show a bike lane. And I think that's basically the only thing we should spend money on, is a little bit of extra white paint and a stencil. And indeed, if the bike paths don't get the use they thought, they now become a sidewalk. So I'm not in favor of spending any extra additional money to designate the bike part of it from the pedestrian part, other than just yellow or white markings just showing that it's a bike lane temporarily.
With all due respect, Mr. Counselor, I'm going to suggest that if we don't do something to designate the bike paths, I don't think we have bike paths. And what the council voted for was to include bike paths.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I'm pointing out, to follow up, just designate it. I'm not saying leave them exactly. Designate them with markings as you show there, with an arrow and the silhouette of a bicycle every so many feet. And I'm sure we have white paint and a stencil down at the Public Works Garage.
Earlier tonight, Counselor, you suggested that there would be no enforcement of the bike lanes. If the only indication that there's a bike lane there is white paint every few hundred feet on the sidewalk, I can assure you that bicycles are not going to know that that's where they're supposed to be. Pedestrians are not supposed to know that they're not supposed to be there, and we are going to have accidents downtown. So I respectfully, I think that's contrary to what the council voted on, and I think that's setting up an absolute disaster.
Being that I don't want to keep us here all night, I'll regress from further comment on that, but thank you.
Yeah.
I love this idea. This will slow down bikes. As a lifelong bicycle commuter, this type of texture, it's automatically in your brain, you slow down. So I love this idea for all kinds of public safety reasons.
That was Michelle Chalice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michelle
down.
Chalice,
It's okay.
25 Beach Street.
The minute taker's back there, yeah. Yes, sir. Let's end this.
I'll be brief as well. Andy Holt, Forest Street. I think that's a great idea as well. I think if you think about subways, there is textured space near the tracks so that you don't step over, you feel it. So this helps both the bikers go slow, but it helps the pedestrians realize that's a space that's different. So they feel that on their feet, even if they're not looking, and it's going to designate that this is a separate area. So to what Don was talking about, it serves that purpose of making it more safe because it helps it be a designated area. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And it might just be the photos that I'm seeing, but with the photo on the right, and you mentioned, we're going to have different samples of concrete and stuff. My biggest concern, and I'm leaning leaning this way to the one on the right, is the distinction again of when for me, I do like the color aspect of it. So I just hope when you're picking colors and solutions, make sure there's a good contrast there between the sidewalk and.
Counselor, I've been married 26 years, and my wife has insisted that I never be responsible for picking colors. So I'm going to put together a team of people who have better fashion sense than I do, and we'll pick something nice.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. So, not really looking for a motion to send on to council, because this committee has made a whole number of decisions, hopefully wisely. So, I'll just poll. What do you want?
I'm happy with either one, either.
Randy?
Some of the comments made on the rougher surface made sense. Maybe it'll slow down those electric scooters that I
Good.
don't want on the sidewalk, so I can go with that one.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, you have your direction.
Thank you,
Done.
Mr. Chair.
Anything else you want to tell us about the project? Oh, as a suggestion, at our next meeting, could you bring in that bid book? Not that for us to go through it, but I think it would be interesting to see for the committee to see what.
I would be very happy to bring in the construction documents for show and tell.
Well, we have heard about this $500,000 that has been spent to generate this, so it would be nice to see it.
Yeah, I will say that at this point, we could have paid Stantec by the pound with the amount of documents that they've produced, so. A couple of other things on the downtown.
Yeah.
The Deputy City Manager Rebecca Landry's already addressed the educational component, and I think she kind of summarized that very well. We do have a plan on that. Once the rules get resolved, we will be getting that effort. And lastly, my friend and colleague, George Downing, is here with me tonight. This is going to be the start of something that we're going to continue with these monthly updates, and that'll be an update from the project ombudsman on what he's been seeing and hearing and doing for the project.
Yeah.
Thanks, Don. George Downing, Project Ombudsman. So last month I told you part of my monthly thing will be an update on what I've been hearing for challenges, concerns, questions. More volume and trends. If an issue needs to be brought to this committee or to the council, that will come through the normal channels, not through me. We're truly, really working hard to differentiate my role. Obviously I've been hired by the city, but I don't represent the city. When I'm out and meeting people, I'm not defending the project, I'm explaining the project. And in fact, one thing that I'll do is I get asked about the bike paths a lot. I did check in with Chair Greenwald to make sure my interpretation was correct. You guys can't revisit that this year, so the people that are vehemently opposed to it need to wait a while. So it's going in the bid project. It will be bid on, and if they really are opposed to it, they need to reach out to you folks and let you know that as your constituents, they are opposed. It's not something that I can do. What I do is walk them through the reasoning for why these were approved in the first place, because that's in all of your minutes. There's a lot of debate. Not the bike path itself, but explaining why decisions were made around the project has been a lot of it. Obviously, there's not a lot of challenges yet. When the construction vehicles show up, we'll start having mostly challenges and much less in the way of conceptual questions. In the last month, I've had 13 issues that rose above the level of just explaining or answering questions. There's a lot of misperception, there's a lot of people that think all of downtown will be closed for the entire construction period, which obviously is wrong, and we really want to give the opposite message. We're open for business, please come down. But that doesn't really go into my tally, because I just talk with people and then they're good and they walk away. So of the 13, 9 have been resolved. 2 are pending information that comes out of the meeting that Dawn was just talking about with Stantec. 1 is coming to another committee of the City Council in a couple weeks. And the last one I just got this morning, so I've been able to resolve that one yet. I do have walk-in hours right now, thanks to the Colonial Theater. They've got me set up in their lobby twice a week, and I want to give a huge thank you to Keith Marks, their director down there, and all of their staff, which has been very helpful. They are, I won't say enthusiastic. I don't think anyone's really enthusiastic for this project, but they are among the group of people that are really digging in and saying, okay, this is going to happen. What can we do to keep downtown vibrant while this is happening? We've been collaborating on some other ideas that may move forward. They're involved with what's coming to planning and licensing in a week or two. So they're really trying to work with us to make this happen. So I'm in the Colonial Lobby Mondays from 1 to 2:30 and Thursdays from 9:30 to 11. And that will go through the end of October, and we'll revisit it at that time to see if it's really paying off, if it's a good use of everybody's time. So far, I get some people coming in every time I'm down there, but really not a whole lot. And I think that's partly due to the fact that for a lot of people, this construction project is still a long ways away. That's not true, but that's the perception. My suspicion is that we will probably not continue this through the winter, but we will look at reopening it in the spring as construction gets closer. And the other thing that's happening is I've started the really hard work of going door to door. I need to know and meet everybody that's downtown. And some of them will say, we don't ever want to see your face again. We're good. But everybody that wants to be kept up to date, I need to know who they are and they need to know who I am. So I've started down at Cumbies, and they didn't care at all. But, they have their own parking lot. Anyway, I'm working my way up the street, come back through the square, back down the other side. I'm also going down the side streets, even though we're not constructing down there. Those folks are going to need some notifications when this comes about. And we do want to push the email opt-in. That remains the best way to get information about the project. It's on the downtown infrastructure page on the city website. And there's also a new comment form on there if people want to just go on and leave comments for everybody.
Good, thank you. Sounds good. Questions? Questions? Any public questions? Yes. Motion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, a question for the committee. If there are specific things that you would like George to include in his monthly updates, we'd love to, know what that is.
Do you hit right on, how many approaches, how many questions, answers, and just hopefully the merchants are paying attention. Then there's the building owners. That's a whole other population that you'll need to
It's actually, it's worse than that. There are, so there's building owners, in many instances, there's building managers, and then there's the tenants, residents, and such. And in some cases, all three are the same thing. And in some cases, all three are different things. So that is one of the questions that I ask when I go into businesses. Who's the building manager? Who's the person you interface with? Is that the same person as the owner? And can I get contact information, at least for those upper levels? The highest level, the building owners, mostly communications will come directly from Public Works. Unless it's somebody that's, Chair Greenwald, you have a building down there, so you're all of those things.
No. I have a whole structure that I can hide behind.
Right, there's that too.
No one said this was going to be easy.
And I am trying to find all of those levels of contact, so at least people hear things once when we say, we're coming to your building next week. We want to make sure we get a hold of everybody.
Good, thank you. Anything? No.
I move we accept the downtown infrastructure report as informational.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Anything further? All in favor? That would be unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, the next one will hopefully be right on. This is regarding the amended layout of Grove Street.
Mr. Chair, thank you for my last act this evening. The Grove Street intersection, or Grove Street right-of-way amendment, had a public hearing a couple weeks ago. We went out to do a site visit. I apologize, I forgot to bring my graphic tonight, and I thought I had left a copy here last month, but seems to have been gone. But in essence, this boils down to, in 2014, the city acquired a few hundred square feet of property along the west side of Grove Street with the intention of widening the roadway. And the roadway was in fact widened. That widening happened because we thought at that time that the railroad land development was going to include some sort of public event venue, a pavilion or a stadium. That didn't come to fruition, so the traffic that was expected and justified widening the roadway didn't come to fruition either. But there is an interest in straightening out that intersection, making it a little less confusing for motorists and pedestrians alike. At the same time, the city recently sold the property on the west side of Grove Street there. And the developer, Habitat for Humanity, has expressed an interest in reacquiring some of the land that we took from the previous owners. They're looking to acquire that land so that they can get the maximum size property and develop it as much as possible. And in that strip of land, although it's pretty modest, it's 2 feet 9 inches at the southern end, about 5 feet at the northern end, just a very narrow strip of land, but that might make the difference between being able to put a single-family home on the property versus a duplex, and having to get a waiver or not having to get a waiver. So it would help them develop that and maximize their use of the property. We don't need the land for any foreseeable public infrastructure purposes. That said, one of the things we talked about during the site visit and the public hearing is giving up that strip of land probably for all intents and purposes means we'd be giving up potential for a future sidewalk on the west side of Grove Street. Now, I explained previously, I think the chances of us ever going back to put in a sidewalk on that street, on that side of the street, are pretty minimal. Reason being is, if you look down the street, there's a row of telephone poles that are in the way. By state law, we can require them to be moved, but if they move them to the other side of the street, there's a sidewalk right up to the right-of-way limit there too. So I don't know where in practical terms they could move them. We do have the sidewalk on the other side of the roadway. There's crosswalks where they need to be. The crosswalk to Wheelock School is on the east side of the street where it needs to be. So I think that's a relatively minor risk that we would be taking, and Public Works does support. That's this application. Obviously, I was the petitioner. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
I was going to say, save yourself.
Yeah, say it. No, all good. We've heard this one a few times.
Yeah.
Questions? We were all at the site visit, so good presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Move to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2025-26.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Questions? All in favor? Unanimous? And
Oh, sorry.
R 2025-27.
Move to recommend the adoption of Resolution R 2025-27.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Were you wanting to speak? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't look up. Nothing else? All in favor? Unanimous. Good. Good job.
Nothing I could have said would have changed that.
But what about the bike lane on Grove Street? Okay, so that concludes our agenda. I thank the staff that came, the public that came, and of course, the committee, and we are adjourned.